right, James, welcome to the show. I'm delighted to finally get you here. We are here. We are live. We're rocking.
Thank you for having me.
I was laughing when I was on the phone with you last week. We were talking about this, that, I always ask people to introduce themselves because I have a habit of underselling or botching the introductions. So I like to leave it up to my guests now to speak for themselves. So do you mind telling me a bit about yourself, who you are, and how you got to where you are today, James?
Yeah, my name is James Cammilleri. I'm the CEO of JSC Management Group. We're Burger King franchisees of 70 Burger Kings in the Northeast and New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. I've been a Burger King franchisee since I've been 21 years old, so I've been in the system for a long time. Part of our success has grown since 2013. I had two in 2012, and my wife and I bought a third one in 2013. And our story is kind of a God story where I went through a nasty divorce and really reprioritized everything about my life and how I was moving forward, and really wasn't about greed, and really started putting other people first before me. And in 2013, our journey began. We started with a third one. By 2019, we had 13. And then we had a chance to acquire 47 in 2020, which we closed on the deal on the day of the pandemic. So our journey has been pretty amazing, pretty remarkable. Certainly blessed. Love what we do. Love our company. We pour ourselves into it. But we're proud of what we've accomplished with our people. We wouldn't be here without our people. Have some amazing talent around us. And the other thing my wife and I are really proud about this whole journey is we started a mission in Haiti, and we started out feeding about 500 kids. Just ended up there. Started feeding some kids fresh bread. And then today we're feeding 35,000 kids in 170 schools. We employ about 250 people. We have 4 bakeries. So, even in the midst of growth of the Burger Kings, and as much as we took on, we didn't forget our roots. We didn't forget that we were blessed people, and the blessings, we need to keep giving the blessings back. And so it's kind of amazing just to watch. We were growing a big company, and at the same time, we were growing a big mission. And they work hand in hand, because, if you're not giving back, then you're missing the boat. So that's kind of my story.
Yeah, I mean, that last part there, I didn't know, and that's kind of, you were holding that back to me, man. That's such amazing color on top of the actual just success trajectory you've been on from a business point alone. I mean, I had no idea that you were like able to feeding so many people. It's amazing. Was that always the way you were? Even when you were 21 and starting in BK, where you were like, oh, I've got a charitable rib here, you know what I mean? Was there something, or is that was there a moment of clarity that kind of got you to the giving back moment?
I think I was always a natural giver to my family, immediate family. Little things in the community. When we first started with the first Burger King, when I was very young, got involved in the PTA, got involved with Little League, giving back that way.
Yeah.
But never to the scale that we do today. And part of that journey was that, when we got to 5 restaurants, we were doing very well. And we were very, very happy. We were traveling around the country, golfing, and having a great time. And we just made a prayer and said, okay, God, you're blessing us. How do we bless other people?
Yeah.
And within a month, we got invited to go to Haiti. And if you've ever been to Haiti, it's a complete nightmare. And I don't belong in Haiti.
Like around 2010, around the time they had their earthquake, or just
this was earthquake was 2010. I showed up in 2016. Really started working there in 2017. But it was really that mindset, and that kind of actually catapulted me and got me ready for the big acquisition. I tell everybody, and God put people around me, John Maxwell, just before the acquisition. It was amazing to watch things unfold that were not part of anything that I had in my planning. I could lead 300 people at 13 restaurants, but could I lead 2,000 people with 59?
Yeah.
And that's a big step. And so, that journey, I just had to personally really dig deep. And I firmly believe, if you go on our website and you kind of read about what we did in Haiti, they kind of go hand in hand with what we've done in America. And it all really bases on leadership.
Yeah.
But I really had to dig deep into myself first, which is something I challenge everybody to do. You have to make sure that you're right first before you can lead anybody else. And I just did a big deep dive into priorities and what was right. How would I lead these people? What was the right approach? And so I really believe all the stuff that I went through in Haiti and learning how to deal with so many different dynamics and so many different people and different culture, trying to give back, but at the same time, not just giving them everything for free, right? Teaching them how to do it, teaching them how to lead their own people. That I told them multiple times that I'm an American citizen. I'm not a Haitian. You guys need to fix it, not me. So I said all that because I really believe that it was a huge, huge help in my overall mindset before we did the acquisition.
Which is, it's actually very interesting. I think, you talk about, say, like digging deep in like your personal journey, and that experience in Haiti was like an inflection point for your career. You were obviously incredibly competent up to that point. Like you had a number of locations before there, and like you were saying, you were playing golf, or was having a good time, So was it like a humility or like a sort of bigger picture? Like what about the experience were the kind of things specifically that you were like, oh, okay, like what was the moment? There obviously was a moment that you were like there and you were like, was there something?
As far as what, like specifically, like something, a light bulb went
on? Like when did the light bulb switch? Like you got to Haiti, like, I mean, you weren't taking there kicking and screaming, I presume. So like you were going there because you knew you needed to, we're going to get back, but you get there and you're like, whoa, like.
Yeah. Here's the best answer I could give you to that is I was a huge planner when I was young, very successful by the time I was 30. I had goals. I had 5-year goals, 10-year goals, 1-year goals, hit all my goals. When I went through the divorce and things changed and began to reprioritize, I began to think one day at a time. And the decisions that I made on that day were going to be affecting me in the year. And so I stopped all planning and I just lived in the moment. And I think to answer your question, even to this day, I don't plan anymore. I wait for opportunities to come. Now, when we build a new location, then of course there's a lot of planning involved. But I'm not sitting here saying, okay, I own 70 restaurants. I want to own 100, because that's where greed comes in. And then you're missing out on the opportunities that are in front of you every day. And so, I think when I had that approach, things just became really, really clear. And my focus was 100 times better. And so I don't think there was like a gotcha moment, but I think being in tune every day with what was around me during that moment catapulted my decision-making for weeks, months, years.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, because it certainly was like an unlock for like your next leadership style, which, as you're saying, when you brought in the extra 59 locations, all of a sudden you're like almost like subconsciously prepared for that leadership challenge? Like you felt like when that opportunity arose, it seems to me that it seemed like a natural evolution of your leadership style.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. And, I think people miss that, they're so, especially, type A personalities like we are, you have so many things you want to accomplish and, where your life's headed, and most of us don't sit still. And it's important to sit still. It's important to be quiet. It's important to listen. It's important to pay attention to the details. Because if you don't, then all your future planning is really not going to have a good, solid foundation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I find it interesting because if I parlay that into like what you were telling me about, like how you think about leadership in the company anyway, and your own personal style, that like, you talk about it as if it's your passion, but you're in our notes when we were talking beforehand, like you do a lot with your team to really like engender types of leadership. Like you do the offsites, you really speak to like the vision of where you want to go, as opposed to like the practicalities of the day-to-day, so to speak, which I think is quite interesting as well. And I presume that's like evolved from your experience, from the Haiti experience.
Yeah, 100%. And again, like I said, just you all of a sudden you acquire 47 restaurants, and you've got to lead these people, and they're watching you, right? They're listening, and so you just got to be careful and cautious about everything that comes out of your mouth. What comes out of your email.
They're going to listen to this podcast. They're like, what? But here, tell me, you talk about like people first leadership, and that's like you alluded to it earlier. When you go to 2,000 employees, one-to-one leadership. Here we are. I'm getting a leadership MBA with you right now. But you got 2,000 people more that you're trying to like have that people first like sort of leadership approach. How, like, when you brought on all those extra stores, I mean, whatever about being confident, day-to-day kind of guy, who's inspired from his Haiti experience and inspired by your own personal experience. I mean, it must have been pretty daunting to figure out like what to do with all those stores, how to figure out on an operations side, how to get it aligned, on a human side, how to get buy-in from everyone. Like when you think about the challenges of that time, like in terms of like priority, like what were the number one challenges that you faced in sort of that transition period?
Well, first of all, it was COVID, right? So there's supply issues. But those, I have an awesome team. Steve Van's our president of our company, and he knows operations inside and out. He's worked together with me since he's been 16 years old. Just a brilliant mind, and was not afraid of the tackle of the challenge of taking on those stores. I had a more methodical approach. Steve had a more aggressive approach, and he succeeded. He got those operations and things in line very, very quickly. My biggest thing, every day we have challenges in our restaurants. I mean, anybody that's in leadership knows that you don't rest. You're always going to have challenges, right? And I don't care what you're doing. But for me, I knew that we were taking over managers, people that were in the Burger King system for 20, 30 years, that were trained to be managers. And when I talk about managers, there's nothing wrong with managers, but in my mind, managers complete tasks. And I can hire anybody off the street to do tasks. I can give them a checklist. I mean, everything is so automated nowadays, from scheduling to ordering. You can give you a task and it can be done pretty simply.
Yeah.
But my goal was that I wanted leaders. And when you have a people first mentality, you can't train managers. You have to train leaders. They have to understand the difference of a leader versus a manager. And a leader develops people. He pours into people. His responsibility is the development of that person, is to give them stronger character, more discipline, more inspiration, more passion. You can be a manager and delegate a task. Where are you going? So to me, the biggest challenge was teaching and training. How do I get people to understand that just anybody can manage tasks. But in JSC Management Group, we wanted leaders. And we were willing to come behind you and train you and teach you as long as you were willing and open and learn. And learning means falling. And we expect you to fall, because if you're going to be a great leader, then you know that there's going to be challenges. And if you don't embrace those challenges, then you really don't want to be a leader. So that was the biggest thing for me was, and then we did a whole, vision event at the end of the year. The beginning of 2021, just casting our vision, and our vision was transformation of management into leadership.
That's amazing. I think, when you think about training leaders, like identifying the talent and then unlocking the sort of leadership capability in them, I think it's like two things, because, you've got so many stores. So you almost need to be like professional NFL scouts, almost like sending the scout reports up saying, this person's really good. We need to keep an eye on this person. And then you got to train that person, like you said. So like, when it comes to the training side, I'm interested. Is there like a specific form of like leadership training that's like special to JSC, or is it like they get into your presence and they're within your orbit, James, and they're like, your type of leadership personality is like rubbed off on them? Like, how do you go? Is there like basically what I'm asking is there like a formal process for teaching them the type of leadership that you're looking for, or how do you go about encouraging that?
Well, the first step is really finding a leader. Right. So you've got to start there. You want to, you find leaders by people that are captain of the football teams, captain of the cheerleader, head of, working side as vice president of their class. You want go-getters. You want people that are already doing more than just their schoolwork, that are playing soccer, that are super busy. And those are your natural born leaders. So it's got to start there. And then we put you just through our normal training. There's the Burger King training that they're required to go through. And then we have JSC management training. And as you move up and as you learn production and you learn service, and then you might learn a leadership position on opening or a leadership position on closing, that's when we really begin to start teaching about our culture and our core values. Even the culture and core values is in the orientation. We do a first day celebration when we hire you, which I think is probably not common in most businesses.
I would say so.
I haven't heard that. We don't. I don't know everything we do because we've changed it, but I know we've had balloons, we have a cake, and our team embraces the new hire, and that stems from number one, culture. You're not just coming to work for a fast food restaurant. You're coming to work for a company that actually cares about you. And what better way to introduce them by celebrating them, right? So right off the bat, subconsciously, I'm sending a signal to them that, hey, you're entering into a different company. And as they grow in the company, we identify who our leaders are going to be. We identify who our culture warriors are. And I say that because we have a lot of people that just don't want to be leaders. Leadership is hard. So we have a place for those people, and we honor those people. We celebrate those people. We have people that open the restaurants that are culture warriors. We have people that work 11 to 2s, that work our highest demand periods, but they're the heart and soul of the company. So we identify all of that. But to answer your question, it's just a succession, and we are kind of watching them to see if they're a leader that we want in our company. And we have a 90-day period where we are putting you through training and teaching and putting you in leadership positions to see how you react. And we make a decision from there. If you're good enough, you stay. If you're not, we let you go. I tell everybody we don't we don't lose. A lot of people don't quit working for us. We let a lot of people go.
Which I think is interesting, because I was going to ask you about that in terms of like the employee brand that you've clearly engendered. So like you have obviously the individual stores, and people come in as front of house, back of house, whatever. They'll graduate up to GM. They graduate up to what, like a area director is probably the next line. It's somebody running a couple of district leader, yeah. And then they're kind of into like a sort of pathway to like a sort of more corporate administrative role with you. But like when it comes to the employee brand, it sounds like you're really invested in it. And so that was actually going to be my question, is like, presumably you don't see a lot of churn, because it sounds to me like you really see the people that work with you. But I guess on the inverse of that is that you set such high standards for the people to be within that position in the first place, that there is a very sort of clear line between what constitutes success and what constitutes not success.
That's right. Yes, you're either gonna fit in or you're not gonna fit in. You know, so yeah, I think it's a challenge, right? We want the best of the best, and we're willing to take care of our people being the best of the best.
Okay.
You know, and that doesn't mean either that we've worked with some people that have taken a little bit longer to meet our culture and standards. We know that they were maybe just lacking in a couple of different things. And I mean, I've got some crazy stories that, you know, I was completely opposed to promoting some people, and Steve and my wife actually said, no, I think we should promote this person, or we should promote that person. And you know, they proved me wrong. And I love that. I love that story, because, you know, I didn't see in them what they seen in them, you know. And that's another thing about leadership is that I love about it, is when you develop leaders and you allow them to be who they are, when you really let them lead their team, they take pride in it. It's not that they're working for James or working for Sarah or working for Steve. It's that they're working for themselves. You know, Sarah and I don't spend a lot of time in our restaurants. We do it on purpose. We want them to be featured. We don't want Sarah and James and Steve to be featured. We want, you know, that's why we put their name on the front door, that they're the restaurant leader, and then there's an assistant restaurant leader. That's the store they run. When I was just got into business with my father, you know, I'd hate when he would just come in and tell me everything was wrong. Drove great. And I say to my dad, I said, Dad, I know everything's wrong. I already know it. You don't got to tell me. You don't got to beat me up over the head. I know it. I'm fixing it. And so that's my leadership style is here's your responsibility. Here's what you have to do. Here's what you have to produce. Here's your metrics where you need to be. Do your job. If you don't do your job and you're not asking me questions to get better, then you're not going to have a job. But
you know, I relate to that.
I'm not going to babysit you. And
totally.
I think people love it. You know, there's certain people that love that, and there's certain people that do want to hear lots of feedback. And I also have people in my company that handle that too. You know, corporate level, they're doing lots of recognition and calling and follow-ups, and some people that need that kind of stuff. But the way that we run the company is we want you to stand on your own 2 feet. We want you to be your own leader.
Yeah, I got that. And I think, you know, I think about this a lot just from my own sort of personal philosophy around leadership, but also like what I feel like, you know, it's like identifying people that are they themselves quite entrepreneurial, or they themselves like will take ownership. You know, I think to your point, like you don't want to micromanage people at your level. I mean, it doesn't make sense for you to be like on that. Like you hire and train professionals so they can professionally manage what you're asking them to do. And I always find that there's like, you know, and I've done like over in probably like 100 of these episodes now. So like, and I've spoken to like many of your peers, James, and it's like a lot of people at that level, at your level, very much kind of similar kind of mindset, which is like, you know, you have to be willing to sort of give away your Legos, so to speak, you know, like that, you know, that like, and it's great. It's very cool to hear you articulate that, like, we don't really go into the restaurants unless it's very deliberate, like on purpose, to like give the ownership to the person. You know what I mean? That like, this is yours and we trust you to be able to do this. We're not going to micromanage. But then you're saying as well, like you have your monthly meeting to go through everything. So like presumably like the district managers are the ones that present you the report on the performance of like the individual stores, or how does the sort of performance both culturally and I guess P&L wise get reported up to you? How does that sort of sequence? How does that process kind of work?
I mean, what do we talk about our meetings?
Well, no, I mean, in the sense you do like a monthly meeting. So like you got a monthly cadence you were saying. And so with the person who's reporting up to you, how does that feedback sort of on a culture level, first and foremost, like everyone hates their job, everyone loves their job, or then like on a P&L wise, yeah, like how do you like kind of understand like sort of the performance on a monthly basis?
So as a matter of fact, in April is going to be my first, well, not first, probably second monthly meeting with our district leaders, all 12 district leaders. I haven't had a meeting with district leaders other than face-to-face in 3 years. So I only deal with Steve and Christina, who's our senior director of employee and guest experience.
Yeah.
And then the marketing team, and then some IT people. But the only thing I talk about is people. I don't talk about metrics. I don't talk about profit. I don't talk about labor. I don't talk about food costs. I don't talk about nothing. I want to know who my rising stars are. Who is moving up the ladder? Who is moving the needle? Who is going from number 5 to number 2? Who is going from number 59 to 50? Who is going 50 to 49? That's all I talk about.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what I'm doing this month in April, is the district leaders, and we've been working on this for the last 5 months now, is getting them to understand a 6-month planning process with people. So we've actually hired a company to develop an online, so the evaluations, the notes, so everything is in there on that individual, so that I can see and Steve can see and regionals can see what they're working on, which every person in their team, so they're not just saying it, they're actually doing it, and the person is signing off saying, hey, yes, I did learn that. So my meetings are literally all I want to know is about people. And you know, it's intentional, right?
Yeah, that has to be intentional.
If I sit here and I go, my company is people first, but all I talk about is food cost, and all I talk about is labor costs, and all I talk about is how much money that new person cost me last month. Am I people first?
No, you would not be people first.
So I'm very, very cautious. Our bonuses are all written. So metrics we're probably one of the only companies, I don't even know if anybody does this, but your food cost and your labor cost is 20% of your bonus. That's it. 80% is on developing people.
Okay, speak more to that then. Okay, so in the formal side of you're putting an actual dollar amount, like an incentive, like a formal dollar incentive on people in the company to train others, and they get bonused on that. So leadership on all rungs gets bonused on what they do to develop people below them. So what is like sort of like, how do you go about even thinking about that? Like, are there like, is it against the mission and the values that you guys have? And it's like, are there sort of tasks that you have to do within? Like, how do you go about actually?
They have to maintain a minimum amount of people in the restaurant, right? So based on their volume, they have to keep, let's just use an arbitrary number of 25 people. Within that 25 people, they have to have 2 team leaders, 2 shift leaders, 2 breakfast leaders. And then they have to have a plan on people on that 25 person roster who is in the training program, becoming the next team leader, the next shift leader, the next assistant leader, the next restaurant leader. So today, the regionals oversee all 59, right? They're broke up into geographics. And then the districts. I think today we have 175 leaders in training right now in the company. So that's what they're bonused on. So if they maintain those numbers and they're constantly planning, they're going to hit their bonus.
And so that training, that planning, it's almost to encourage them to identify the plans that can get them to that place. So for you, it's unlocking better potential, and it's unlocking, I guess, eking more performance out of people if they're like planning ahead. But at the same time, it's like an aligned incentive, basically. Like
it's very easy in our business to get stagnant, right? So you can get a lot of a lot of employees that work for you 5 years, whatever. And if you're not constantly training them and moving them up and challenging them, then you're just going to have glorified Whopper makers. You're going to have a glorified cashier. And you don't pour into people, right? You don't care about the individual person.
Yeah.
So that's what makes our company special, is that we're focusing on that. We're teaching you how to focus on that.
It's awesome. I mean, I would say this, something for nothing. This is probably the most human-centric conversation I've had in like 100. So like, you're definitely living your mission and breathing your mission here to be very people first. I mean, I'm like kind of wowed by it. And I'm also very wowed by the fact that you have identified cultural indicators and are benchmarking them off of people's like performance for their bonus. And I think about that a lot because I ask people a lot on this podcast. It's like, people talk about culture all the time. Like every restaurant, every group talks about culture, and they all, if you're going to be at this size of a business, you probably do have a good culture. I mean, it's hard to scale and have like bad culture, but at the same time, it's like almost like putting money where your mouth is, and I had a woman on recently who's the president of a company called Arc Hospitality. They're like a pre-development hotel, and they own a bunch of hotels actually down your neck of the woods, kind of Georgia, Florida. And she was kind of saying the same thing, that like bonuses for the leadership were predicated on the sort of cultural outcomes that they had identified as what they want within the business. But one interesting thing, and I'm curious, that she was able to correlate like sort of certain happiness indicators that they benchmarked against led to better sales within certain hotel properties, for example. So they were able to say, well, we're able to like incentivize better behavior from our leadership with these sort of cultural sort of indicators. But then we can clearly see bigger sales over here as well versus ones that have lower happiness or lower cultural indicator, whatever the indicator might be, and then lower sales, again, pointing to their initiative or to her initiative saying, yeah, this has actually had a material impact on the business. You're doing that too. And quite clearly it's having a material impact on your business. And I think more people, especially in hospitality, need to hear your kind of story, James, because what I hear constantly is inflation or hiring are the two costs. Like people never stop talking to me about it, especially hiring. I mean, I guess I am associated with a hiring business, so to speak. So obviously everybody wants to speak to that. But like, it seems like these are the two kind of key costs, and almost like culture, investment in culture, be it training, be it, whatever sort of initiative a company wants to do, seems like at like a third far away cost that a lot of businesses are kind of talk a lot about or dance a lot about, but don't actually put in practice. And it sounds to me like, you are really kind of taking your business in a very unique kind of direction, which is almost like trailblazing, so to speak. Not to pick your head up too much.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I definitely think you don't hear anybody talk about leadership, right? You hear, our people are called leaders, right? They're called breakfast leaders, restaurant leaders, district leaders. They're not managers. One of the things I think we actually talked about in the other call was how you can't work more than 50 hours a week as a restaurant leader. The minimum is 45. We want you to work 45. If you can get your job done in 40, then God bless you. Get out of the restaurant. People talk about, how do you build leadership? How do you develop people? Well, if you're if you've got this great general manager that's worked for you 30 years and they're putting in 80 hours a week, you're stealing 40 from another person that you could be developing. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's what happens in our business is they get all these little superstars, and now the owner is so happy and they don't want to lose that person because they're so valuable. I take the opposite approach. I want to push that leader that's been with me for a long time, and you better be moving up because I'm making room for people beneath you. So you have to balance that out, and you can't allow that person to work more than 50 hours a week.
Is that like an arbitrary number, or have you is that like a figure that you're like, this is a number that I wouldn't want to work to, thus this is the number? Or like, is there a reason why 50 and not 45, for example, is the number?
Well, 45 is the number, but
Yeah.
things happen, right? Bus shows up or somebody shows, so for me, when I first started out, it was just really, really important for me to, number one, that the 2 days off, that I would never bother my people on their 2 days off.
Yeah.
After they were done with their shift, I would never call them. The restaurant would never call them.
Yeah.
Because now you're infringing on that personal time. And if I was going to be people first leader, then their family has to come before my business.
Yeah.
And if I am constantly making them work so many hours and putting my business first over the people, then that doesn't work, right? It's the same way if I sat there and I said, okay, I want you to develop people, but your bonus is all on food costs and labor. How does that connect in the company? And again, right. So it's all the culture. It's all the basis. What's coming out of my mouth? What's coming out of my people's mouths? Are we talking about food costs? Or are we talking about developing people? Are we talking about drive-through speed of service? Or are we talking about developing people? See, the solution to every problem in our business, and I guarantee hotel business, whatever else, is people.
Yeah. Well, this is it. I mean, this is what I hear. I mean, you could listen to all 100 and whatever podcasts of this, and every single person will talk in and around the same thing, which is like, how do I identify the right people to have my business succeed? Like, that's the true for all, relevant for some sort of through line, whether you're a casino or a hotel or a restaurant, whether you're fine dining, Thomas Keller, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, everything is predicated on having the right people. Like, I always laugh, like, the example I feel that resonates with everybody is like, you can teach people service, but can you teach someone to see that piece of garbage in the corner of the room to go pick it up before anybody else sees it, and not like just do it so naturally, as an innate passion, that innate sort of responsibility taking, and just like general good manners, you know. And it's fascinating because I think a lot about this. I think about this in the sense that I've done so many episodes now that I feel like I'm in some sort of random, like, I'm picking up all these tidbits of like knowledge. And like, one of the things is like, people talk about like identifying talent, and it's very hard to say what that is in a intangible sort of framework, in the sense that, like, you can teach service to that point of sale. I can show you to use the cashier. I can show you these things, but like, how do I teach somebody to like, open the door for somebody, to greet somebody like with a real personal smile, you know what I mean? To not like, to be able to not like overly stress out over stressful situations. How do you do this? And it's like, when I hear you talk about like sort of your leadership program, your leadership initiative, what did you say, like 127, was it?
175 people in training right now.
175, yeah. Like, I mean, that's unbelievable. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, they probably don't even realize how insanely valuable the training you're offering them is until they look back later on their career, because it's not like a thing that happens. It's like getting jacked in the gym or something. Like, it's not going to happen to you tomorrow if you do your first bench press. Like, it's like a lifetime of that experience of getting to that point. And like, I'm just honestly like very impressed, like, with the program that you put together and what you're telling me here, because I don't actually hear it that often. And I speak to many businesses your size, You know what I mean? Like in a sense, like I mean, if you just go look at the podcast, James, you'll see there's so many.
Thank you.
I'm like picking my own podcast over here as well. I should apologize. This is your podcast. Okay. Here's a question for you. Vision. You talked about having your vision conference at the end of 2021. I mean, I'd love to know the name. Did it have a fun name, or did you just call it like JSC Leadership Vision?
We change it every year, and it's all based on where really my wife and I want to take the company in the following year. So this year's theme was, so last year was building a dream team.
Love it.
So, and I start, very first year, in 2021, we gave the JSC Leadership Award, and we gave away a car. We gave away a brand new Jaguar.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And then the second year, we talked about culture and the culture warrior. So we gave away 2 cars. We gave away one for JSC leadership, and then one for JSC culture. So culture warrior, we called them.
Yeah.
And as I was evaluating all the stuff we were doing, and again, I was constantly challenging and evaluating and, you know, looking at where the company is and where we should be and things we need to fix. And we started just realizing we were awarding one person out of 2,000. We were awarding two people out of 2,000. And even though we were doing, you know, many competitions every day and every month and, you know, doing all kinds of fun things all the time, but this big giant award, it was cool and everybody remembers it, you know.
Yeah.
Both times, you know, because we did the whole smoke and reveal and nobody knew it was coming. But you know, I said, you know, we're talking about people first, talking about leadership, and none of these leaders are leaders without their people. And so the third year we talked about teamwork and building a dream team. And so we took the top 15 restaurants and we divided, I don't know what it was, $125,000, and we gave it to the top 15 stores. And then this year it's the JSC dream team of being dominant.
Oh, okay. Put a bit of an edge to this.
how to dominate being a leader, dominating culture, dominating teamwork. And then we just put together a quick initiatives that we're talking about, all high level, and it's just a big party. But now the last 3 months, we've been really just working on how are we dominant? What are the shortfalls of our company? What areas do we need to improve? Right. So and again, this is a reason why we're doing a district leader with me and my wife in April for the first time in 3 years.
Yeah.
Is because in order to be dominant, I want to hear what you're doing to be dominant. So they all know you're going to present your plan to me and Sarah on April 17th of what I've given you 3 months now. Well, you've actually almost 4 to put your plan in place. You've had time to evaluate your whole team. Now I want to see who your superstars are, who are the people you've got in training, who are the people you're getting rid of, who are the people that are holding you back.
Yeah.
And that's being dominant. So I, focused on what does it take to be really, really dominant as a company, and just started breaking out certain things and started saying, hey, we're not missing the mark. We're not hitting the mark here. We're not hitting the mark here. We're not hitting the mark here. We're talking about it here, but we're not doing it here. And so with vision for me, it's always, where am I at? Where have I been? Where am I at today? And where should the company be moving towards? And that's just really critical, honestly, of me personally versus the company. It's saying, hey, just like I said to you, right? Like the cars were cool, but in reality, I'm leaving 1,999 people out in the cold that really busted their butt for us. right?
No, totally.
So
It's interesting. Go on.
I think it's that constant challenge of moving the needle. I'm never comfortable. I'm always making things, and Burger King knows that about us, is that we are always ahead of the curve. We're always ahead of the curve on technology. We're testing stuff that other franchisees aren't. We're investing in things that other franchisees aren't. I believe in investing in our people, investing in our images. So you've got to do a deep dive yourself. And again, going all the way back to the start of the conversation when I told you I had to do a really, really deep dive into me before I could lead 2,000 people. I still hold true to that today on evaluating the company.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I think, one of the things that kind of stood out for me there in talking about the vision was using the word dominate. That's a very deliberate word because it's like, rather than me say, how did you come to the word dominate? And I know I don't want to get caught up in language, but I think it's a very powerful phrase to use, teamwork and then dominate. It's like, okay.
I stole it from Deion Sanders.
Great 49er.
Yeah, so he just took over the college Colorado last year, and I watched his show or watched something on a speech of his, and he just talked about we need to be dominant. And we've got a lot of great. We're blessed. We've got a lot of amazing people that work for us. A lot of high energy people that are just so fun and love talking to them. And you can have great people, right? But are they really being dominant? I mean, are they really dominating the industry? Are they dominating their area? And so that was a challenge, right? It's a challenge. Now it's okay. How do we become dominant? How do we do it? Right? What's the work behind the words?
Totally. I mean, it's the fun part. Totally, because now you have like your sort of like, okay, what's our ultimate vision is to like dominate, and it's like work back from that. What will it take us to dominate? And then now you're at the point where you're meeting your district managers, and you're getting them to come up with reasons why they're dominating, why they can dominate, and what's holding them back, which is amazing. And are they doing that work, that kind of 4-month prep work with you said they were like an outside consultant that was helping them, or are you letting them to their own devices to kind of
we just have a training platform that they put all their people in that I can see, the whole company can see, and it's all in each restaurant. So each restaurant has its own org chart, so I can see. Remember, you told you about we need 25 people. We got to have two of these, whatever these. So they're just using that platform, and then the present will be on April 17th. And like I said, I want to hear about your people, but I want to hear about your plan. And it'll be 3 months, but I really want to hear 6 months. And I told them all, I don't really care what you did yesterday. I don't want to hear one damn thing you did last week.
Yeah.
I want to hear what's going on right now and where you're going to be.
I mean, totally. I mean, like set the vision for themselves and set the vision for their team. And again, that goes back to you, like trying to unlock their own sort of leadership potential. Like, I guess they're probably all like, I'd say some of them are probably quaking in their boots, probably going to present to you.
I'm sure there's a couple.
Yeah. But like at the same time, I mean, that's the nature of being in that position, like you got to like be willing to kind of step up. You got to soapbox your company, soapbox your position, and get drive your team forward. I mean, if you want to be in that position, these are the stakes. Right. So it's very cool to hear you say this and kind of also enable that from people like that. Do you know what I mean? It's like, they're coming up to see, the big boss man, you know what I mean? Like this isn't like a regular thing, So like to be in that position, like we think about that a lot, actually, even when we do like our bi-weekly alignment meeting, like company alignment, which is like, and we're quite distributed. Like we got to the point where it was like, how do we make this a privilege to speak at this? You know what I mean? We're X number of people now. And it's like, it's not just willy-nilly just getting up there and you have access to the mic. It's like, no, if you're like an employee, it's like, this should be a privilege to be able to get up and speak in front of this. You know what I mean? And so we very much designed our sort of weekly or bi-weekly to be very like, yeah, it's not a frequent thing, and it's a very much like you're getting the opportunity to speak. Do you know, it's I think about that a lot. I mean, I used to work in design consulting before, where I would go do organizational culture and change for large corporates, and like people would be like, how do we buy your culture? And it's like, yeah, you can't, you know what I mean? It's like, this is the culture of this business. But I think about it a lot, just like, you know, it's rewarding non-transactional rewards, I think a lot like are just something that are so powerful internally. It's like, how do you give people the sort of internal credibility, internal authority? What are the things that engender it? And to your point, it's just working these things back. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're getting somebody to like talk about dominating. Okay, it's like, cool, but like, what are the things you can get to dominating? And then you're able to break it down into the individual modules and go, okay, cool, to dominate sales in this area, we need to do X, Y, Z. It's like, okay, well, it's probably a bit of better marketing. There's probably, you know, like clean up the store a bit more. There's probably things that are very like, these are the tangible things you can do. And it's the same for culture. And I think it's just people want to jump into great culture because they see great culture and they go, I want that. And it's like, yeah, you have to kind of boil it down and boil it down and boil it down and get to the nubs of it, so to speak, and then work onto it. Just my hot take, just listening to you, James. I think here, I know we're really we really gave it a go on this podcast. 51 minutes here. Can you believe that? Can you believe you were talking for 51 minutes?
No, is it? Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Listen, I love talking about it because I believe in it, right? And then, it shows in our company that, and I love doing it.
Do you know what I loved about your website? And I think you'll love this. When I was like doing my little homework, of course, I do my homework and all the guests. You had all the people, all your leadership there, photos, smiling. And I was like, finally a website in hospitality has their people on their website. And I mean that genuinely, like, because I go through, there's probably like 150 more people that haven't come on the podcast, okay, that I've like indicated they would. So I've like the highways and byways of the internet looking at people's websites, and yours, honest to God, has that on it. And I was like, there we go. Finally, help me help this company. You know what I mean? Like it's just like, yeah, I mean, I was happy to see that. So like, very compliments to you, and compliments to the website and the Haiti stuff as well, which is just phenomenal. And, frankly, it's an amazing part of your story, James, like the fact that you went over to Haiti and it did have such a ideological impact on you, and it has like unlocked like a next level in like leadership for you, which can't be said for a lot of people. I mean, putting themselves in that kind of position and then coming back and realizing that there is a change of perspective, your own personal culture as well, which is just phenomenal to hear. I guess as we like wrap up, the thing I always ask everybody, and I guess this has been nothing but this whole podcast has been advice for anybody listening. I mean, like, everyone should like absorb this. But the last question I always ask is, like, what advice would you give somebody who has listened to this? Like, if you're speaking to a peer of yours that, like, knowing that culture is such a challenge, like, what advice would you give somebody?
I think the best advice, and I just told my daughter this just a few months ago, and I told her in the past, but just remember that the turtle wins the race. The more methodical, the more intentional, the more you take the time to inspire people around you, you're gonna move lightning fast. But if you are so worried about getting to point B because you're not happy with point A, you're gonna miss the boat, and you're not gonna enjoy the journey. So slow down, love what you do, be super, super intentional, put people way before you, and watch how the reflection of their success shines on you.
Whoa. All right, man. You got to get you as a motivational speaker or something. I feel like I got to leave this call buzzing. James, man, you're an absolute legend. Thanks so much for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.